So we're here today. Hello, everybody who is connected to our live stream. We're here today with Warren Schritzinger. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing good the last name, Warren.
It's it's pronounced like the article of clothing that you wear called shirt zinger.
Shirt singer. Cool.
Right.
I mean, yeah, that way I'm not going to forget anymore. Shirt singer.
Yeah.
And today we're gonna talk about startup key success factors. The very first of the key success factors that we think is the problem solution fit and the strategy. Not only to understand if we are solving a problem, because 42% of startups fail because they are not solving a problem. So that's really important. But how to strategize the solution, let's say to be different in the market and to solve the problem in a different way than our competitors are doing.
Yeah.
Uh, and we have this part of this key success factor, right? We're differentiated in several subtopics. Let's say the very first of these topics is that we think that to have success in the startup, the problem assumptions should be confirmed by early adopters and field experts. So we're talking here about the problem.
Yeah. Uh, Absolutely. And this is one of the things that I think is it's probably not stated enough. Many people talk about you've got to solve a problem. You've got to find and identify a problem to solve. And that is true. But you also need to keep in mind that the problem has to be something that is the same problem by a group of people that you can reach, right? What if there's a problem that a lot of people have, but there's no way to really communicate with them. There's no way to deliver a solution to them. Or the other issue can be, what if they have no money? So it's identifying a problem, but it's the existence of an identifiable, a reachable, funded economic group of buyers, and that's the thing that is, in my mind, is not said enough. Along with finding the problem, it has to be delivered. The solution has
Yeah.
to be delivered. So, so I always think about how how are these people who have this problem? How are they related? How do they communicate? How will I get to them? How will I deliver a solution to them? And to me, that's very important.
Very insightful, Warren. Here we always talk in these key factors that it's highly recommended, right? So you're talking about, hey, the people here, your target audience should be, you can be able to reach these people at some point that they should be close enough to you, right? To provide not only the solution, but to research the market. Otherwise, how do you do the research, right? And how do you know that
Yes.
you're solving a problem? But how do we do this key success factor? What are in your mind or in your experience the techniques or the tactics that the problem is using to confirm that early adopters and field experts have this problem? You
Yeah.
go and you try to reach out field experts. How do you do that? Or you
Yeah.
talk with your audience, your target audience, you do interviews.
Yes. Now, and this brings up another. To me, it's a fascinating topic. If you have something that is brand new and no one has ever seen before, and then you go to a group of buyers and you've identified people and you want to ask them, well, what do you think of this idea? Do you think that people will buy this? Well, if they've never seen it before, you're asking them to guess about a market that has never existed. And that's much different than if the new product is in a category that everybody is sort of familiar with. Oh, I see you're going to improve SaaS for financial technology or financial applications, or you're going to improve an app that allows people to order things online. Okay, so everyone knows what those are. Everyone can comment about, yes, this sounds like a good idea, or no, it needs some improvement. But if you're truly taking something brand new, no one is going to really speak with authority about this is a great idea. It's going to be much harder to even connect the solution to the buyer because that's never existed. And in the early market, when you have something and really, all you're going to do is hope to sell to innovators and early adopters, the very beginning of the adoption curve. That makes the concept of product market fit much more difficult, because the market really in many ways doesn't exist. There's nothing to fit to.
Yeah.
That's why, and you and I have talked about this before, and I hope it's not too repetitive. That's why I like that that's why I like the infrastructure concept, where you essentially go into a category and discover who it is has been working in a certain market space for many years. They've got quite a position of authority. Some people call them power brokers. Some people call them whales. I know some people call them influencers. But in a given market sector, or maybe you would call it an economic sector or market segment, you find people who are very much in a position of authority, and those are the best people to talk with, because they've spent a lot of time in that space. They know who all the different companies are. They know how products tend to be delivered, and it's in my mind, it does a lot of things for you they're much better than going directly to a prospective end user. And then we've got that other problem that we've talked about before, is if you have a new product and then you take it to a prospective customer, they want to be nice to you. They want to say nice things.
Yeah.
They don't want to say, "Hey, your baby is ugly."
Totally, that happens
Right.
all the time.
It does. And
In
I
my
know,
experience, it's very common.
yeah, and I know you're reading a book about this.
The mom test, by the way,
Yeah,
for everybody watching to us live. The mom test is the name of the book, and it's highly recommended because everybody lies to you, is what we have to realize when we're researching.
and this is a very important topic. It is awfully hard to get people to be brutally honest, and that's what you want as a startup. That's what you want with a new product. You
Yeah.
have people tell you absolutely their honest opinion, and not make things nice if it's not.
Yeah,
So
because what's the point of saying nice things if they are not helping you? I rather prefer, hey, say me, how ugly is my product, or
right.
how useless is my product. I need your help because I'm going to invest my time and my money on it. If you tell me that this is not going to work, I I might realize soon enough to not invest that much money, and you're going to help me. But if you're saying me, hey, this is great, and it's not, I'm going to invest a lot of time and money that I'm not going to recover in the future.
Yes. Yeah. Uh, so it's an interesting set of problems,
Mhm.
but I think it can be done well so that you get exactly the feedback that you need, and
Mhm.
you just have to be careful who it is you reach out to and ask for their feedback, because an industry expert is going to tell you so many things you have never thought about.
And how did you approach? Because that's one thing that I myself experienced it in the past, and I think a lot of people struggles with it. Is how do you approach these industry experts or these influencers because they are terribly busy.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's very difficult to have their attention, right? So
it,
how do you approach them when you don't know them? Or here is the other thing: if you don't know them, maybe you shouldn't start in that industry. I don't know.
and that's a great point. Maybe the most successful products really are started by people who are already influencers themselves. Um, but it's easy. You're right. They are constantly being uh, asked for their feedback. They're constantly being asked to give a presentation or deliver a paper or attend an online event. So uh, the thing that I always like to do is an influencer or a market luminary or guru or someone who's got this important position in a market, that they are able to um, be there and stay there by learning about new things before everybody else.
Mhm,
Everyone follows them for a reason. They just seem to know where the industry is going. They know who's doing what type of maybe it's research and development, or who's doing what kind of testing. So they're going to have a natural interest in something that no one else knows about. You can approach them really by saying, I'd like to show you something before I show it to anybody else.
mhm.
That's what they want, and it
That
does
gets them excited, right?
it gets them excited, and it keeps them in that position
Mhm,
of having influence,
mhm, mhm,
um, because they can, and it's good. They can start talking about it right away. They can say at their next meeting with people, hey, I was just given a special preview of something that no one else has seen before, and this is how it works, and this is a very interesting concept. So
mhm,
it really helps them quite a bit.
mhm, mhm. Good. So after 15 minutes, we have the first topic, I think, covered. We're gonna split this hour of talks in four uh, in in four parts of 15 minutes each. So I think
Perfect.
it's time to transition to the second key success factor inside this very big topic, which is startup success factors, problem solution fit, and strategy. But before jumping, some resources I would recommend to our audience, if you don't mind, Warren. So
So
first one is, and we're talking about in this very first subtopic, we've been talking about that the problem assumptions are confirmed by early adopters, meaning your target audience and field experts. And to do that, some books or resources I recommend to read are Value Proposition Design by a Strategizer. It's a method to research and strategize your value proposition. Talking more about the solution. Then read about the methodology Jobs to be Done by Tony Alwick, and later popularized by Clayton Christensen, sorry, Harvard professor and doctor. And read the book of Mom Test. So the book of
mm,
Mom Test is helping me a lot to realize when how to talk with people to to not be kind of so they don't. They are gonna lie to you anyway,
Right.
but yeah, you have to try not to let them lie because it seems, and I completely agree with that view in the mom test,
Mhm.
that when you talk about your idea, you're excited, is your little child, yeah, like you always talk, is when people starts to lie. But if you're asking questions about their struggles and their process that are purely facts, they are not gonna lie. There is
Yeah,
no point that you are lying me with
right.
your day-to-day process. So it's about not talking about your idea and
Yeah,
talking about the problems that the people has, right?
yeah.
So those are the my recommendation of books. Something else you want to add for this very first topic, some book or resource, Warren?
Um, no, actually, I think the ones you've mentioned are good, and they're a great starting place. You, you know, the thing that I guess I would add, and we mentioned a minute ago, is if you come from an industry and you're creating something that solves a problem you had yourself. You see, you
Hmm.
don't have to go out and ask people about it.
Yeah.
You don't need to find people to interview because you've experienced the problems, you've looked for solutions, you know how the industry works.
Hmm.
That's called domain expertise, and
Hmm.
if you have that, then think about how far ahead you are already because
Hmm.
you're solving the problem for yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah, that sometimes is another, not sometimes, but most of the times is key success factor, right? Is and the business angels, the venture capitalists before investing, they want to know that somebody in the team has domain expertise, right?
yeah,
It's a must,
yes,
right,
it,
Warren? Mhm.
and you know, unfortunately, I see companies moving forward with products, um, and there's no one in the company with domain expertise.
Mhm.
They might be good mechanical engineers, but they don't have mechanical engineering
Yeah.
expertise in that specific space. So um, that's a difficult situation. Unfortunately, I see it a lot, though.
Mhm. Mhm. Good. Let's transition to the second subtopic, which is that solution solves the problem. It's another of the questions that we ask to ourselves or to the founders to evaluate how robust is the startup, right?
Yeah,
So here I have a question for you, Warren. So does the solution solve the problem? How do we know as a founders, entrepreneurs, that we have facts, enough facts to more or less know that the solution solves the problem? So we be talking about the problem and there is a research about the problem. We don't
yeah,
have to confuse research the problem with research solution and build the solution, which to me, it's the value proposition. So it's two separated researches and things and processes. Here we're talking more about the solution, but how do we know that we have enough facts to know that our solution and value proposition is solving the problem?
yeah. Uh, well, this again is one of these interesting topics. I find everything interesting, I guess.
Me
The
too. I guess that that's the
yeah,
reason because we are here talking with each other, right?
yeah. The, the thing, just stepping back for a minute, that I feel is very, very important is, and maybe you've heard uh, this um, metaphor before. There's a saying out there that says people don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill;
Hmm.
that they want to buy a quarter-inch hole.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting concept, but in my mind, the real question is why? Why do they want a hole at all? And think of how fabulous your company could be if you knew their reason for drilling the hole. What if they wanted to drill a hole
Mm-hmm.
and it was always in a pipe? So it's a curved it's a curved edge. Well, you could develop as an add-on product a pipe holder, right? So it grabs the pipe and then drills the hole.
Mm-hmm.
You can do all kinds of things if you understand what I call the customer motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, and this goes in along with the innovation adoption curve. Is every group of adopter has a different set of motivations, why it is they would be looking at a solution in the first place. There's a whole group of adopters who don't want anything new ever, right? And they'll be glad to tell you that. So you don't really need to think about their motivation, because their motivation is to do nothing. But you need to understand the motivation of each adopter group in the sequence. If you're serving an early adopter market, then there's a lot that you can essentially. Yes, you will learn from your customer analysis. You'll learn from interviews. You'll learn from talking with influencers. But you also know what it is drives early adopters. It's another dimension of understanding why they would want a solution. Their motivation is to get ahead of everybody else. So that tells you quite a bit about who it is you're going to serve, what it is going to motivate their actions, how it is they will drive success, with you, if you essentially get in alignment with their motivation. So it's in my mind, you have to go beyond just selling holes, and you have to understand why somebody wants that hole and what they're going to do with it and what they hope to get from it.
I really this is a topic that I am passionate about. If it's all around just to be done, and I read a lot about that. And for me, it was kind of very. It was a wow moment, right? It was an aha moment for me. This this phrase of people doesn't want a quarter-inch hole. They don't want a driller. Sorry, they want a quarter-inch hole. And
Right.
I can go far ahead saying they don't want a quarter-inch hole. They want a cozy place to live
Yeah.
because they can, put something to decorate their home
Yeah.
with that hole.
Yeah.
So what is your why, right? So
Yes.
your why can be, okay, this driller is cool because I like mechanics and I like to have drillers and I have to like hardware at home and I'm a freak of that, a geek of that, right?
Yeah.
But then the next why can be, hey, let's have a nicer living room, right?
Yes.
And depending on probably the early adopters, that they are more about the tech, right? This is cool. This is the next kind of driller of Black and Decker, right?
Yeah.
But then maybe your couple, he or she, or they're saying, I just want a nicer living room. So,
Right.
and then they are in the next step of this adoption curve, right?
Yep. Well, it helps you really do a much better job of understanding how to serve their driving force, their motivation for getting something done. You, I'm a big fan of offering add-on services, things that make it easier for people to adopt your product. And if you know what it is important to them, then you know what to add in and supply along with your core product, so that they are much more willing to adopt and much more interested in your solution. Well, if we go back to your original question, how do you know when you've got enough information? I don't know that you can put a number on that. The thing that I always look for is a consistent set of responses over, I would say, 24 interviews. Now, I've noticed that in some cases, someone will have a new product. They'll ask me to go and do some research for them. They'll ask me to validate the solution, and I begin talking to experts, and I begin talking to influencers, and I can talk to people who are in the market space, and sometimes I'll even talk to an end user or two or three. If the responses don't have any similarity, then there's no consistency in what you're hearing. Mm-hmm. You've got to continue to do research until you discover that consistency, that you have people from different perspectives beginning to say the same thing. Mm-hmm. You don't know what that number is. You might have to talk to 20, 30, 40, 50 people until you identify something that they all feel they're in agreement with. And I don't ever put the words in their mouth. I don't ever say, I was talking to someone who mentioned these problems that need to be solved. You always, in every interview, you let the person you're talking to bring up what the issues are. And that's where you look for consistency. That's where you look for trends and things that people are all saying. And without that, you've just got scattered results. I wouldn't make decisions based on hearing 10 different things from 10 different people. Mm-hmm. That's it. And this is the issue with qualitative research. You're asking for people about their opinions, their perspective, their feelings. These aren't things that you can just go and say, are you 82% happy today?
Yeah.
Right. So numbers don't work when you ask for perspective information, value information, and problem information. That's not quantifiable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's take a couple of minutes here to. I'm sorry about the people crossing.
That's okay.
But we are here in a common room. So let's take this another 2 minutes to finish with this second subtopic.
Yeah.
So if we think about actionable advice, I would like to provide a couple of thoughts, and then if you want, Warren, of course, you give us your opinion. But to have facts that the solution solves the problem now is very common, not only now, but since some years from now. After you ideate your value proposition, meaning the solution, for some kind of industries, for example, for SaaS industry, for marketplaces, for direct to consumer products in the industry of consumer goods, you can do what we call a smoke test, right? It's okay. I have a value proposition, but I don't have the product. I build a landing page, web page, and then I do some ads. I put this web page in front of the target audience. Very important, in front of your target audience.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to somebody that is not your target audience. And then let's see how it converts. How is my landing page or website converting? And then on top of that, I have emails to keep doing research, keep asking questions, and having more research for my future MVP. So what do you think about the smoke tests? This kind of test, is it a technique that you like to use to confirm that your solution kind of solves the problem?
Well, the thing that, I know there's a big difference between, consumer goods and B2B good, products that are expensive or complex. The thing that, I'm always looking at, if you put up a landing page, are you sure you're reaching the people that are going to be the well-funded economic buyer that you want? That's the thing about the internet, is anyone can come across your landing page. People can see what you're posting online in a variety of places, but are they the people you really want to reach, and do they have the money to essentially make the purchase? And those
That's a
things,
really interesting point.
yeah. So it's it, anytime you do a test, you don't want to test the wrong audience. That's just the bottom line. And and you need to take steps to say, okay, I am absolutely putting my proposition in front of the people who I want to reach. I know that they're there. I know that I can reach them in this manner, and they are the ones that will do the buying. So, you got to keep that kind of focus, and that way you don't waste a lot of time and resources.
Completely. While doing startup coaching, some of the entrepreneurs come to me and say, "Hey, I think I have a problem in the conversions. We're doing a smoke test with a value proposition in a landing page, and we're just converting the 0.5%, and the industry average of conversions is 8%. My first question is, are you sure that the people and the users that you are driving to your landing page are your customer persona and
Right?
your perfect target audience? Because if you're not driving that people, it's normal that you are having that low percentage or
Yeah.
of conversion rate. So before saying and making the decision of conclude that you have a bad conversion and a bad value proposition, first we have to answer ourselves. Are we driving our target audience to our landing page, or we are driving everything in the world and that's the reason because we have a bad conversion?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's and people can be interested in all kinds of topics and never be a buyer. you know, I,
Yeah.
I saw. I was speaking with someone who, I believe she's a school teacher, and she's very interested in new artificial intelligence products.
Uh-huh.
Not because she wants to use them, not because she will ever. That's just her interest. So she would go to that page because it's a interesting topic, and
And then she's not
that's
gonna buy.
right. So that's an issue.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. So one last technique to close this second topic about the solution solves the problem, which is the big question here. Another thing that we can do, right, is to build a prototype and then put the prototype in front of this your target audience again
Yeah.
and have feedback. Now for online tool, there are online tools that let you do that and then do an perform a screener survey to be sure that the people that is going to evaluate your prototype, they are your target audience. So now
Yes.
there are tools like usertesting.com, userinterviews.com that are helping you on that. What
Yeah.
do you think about this technique and how can we do that in another kind of um, industry which is not SaaS?
Yeah. So I think that's a great approach. If you look at almost any type of business, whether it's B2B, B2C, there is always going to be at least a minimum of what some people call a beta test, or a beta unit that is tested by an end user. And I think those are extremely valuable. If there's an easy way to get it into the hands of the end user, like the tool you were mentioning, then that's perfect. Um, the ideal person that you want to reach, of course, is an innovator or an early adopter who does not mind if the product is rough, if it's not really complete, if it's got a lot of missing features and it doesn't work 100% of the time, maybe it crashes a little bit. The, the person or testers or the first early customers you want are people who they're okay with that. That's fine. And they're willing to act in that role of giving you helpful feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I tried to use this for these tasks or these jobs to be done, and it didn't perform very well. You need to rethink how you're doing some things, and that you want them to almost become part of your team. They won't call it that, but you want them to feel free and unrestricted in terms of helping you move that product forward. And there are probably a lot of different ways to get prototypes out there, and online prototyping. That's kind of cool. That's great as long as you reach the right person.
Totally.
Same thing. I sound like a broken record. You got to reach the right people.
Well, it's very important. So
yeah,
I hope that resonates in our audience.
yeah.
So the next topic out of the third out of four topics that we have today is the solution is clearly a game changer. That's another question that we ask to founders and the startups to understand if these new startups and your ideas and our ideas can be successful in the long term. Talking about this, is the solution a clearly game changer? Are we weren't talking about building something different in the market? Are we talking about a unique selling point, something that is not out there still? Can we clarify this?
Okay, so I'm trying to decide whether to share a couple of things, if it's okay with you.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Please.
So I'm.
You should be able to share.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
See your second screen here.
All right. So hopefully this is visible.
It is now.
All right. This is something that I think everyone needs to be aware of, and it's a thing that is not always apparent when it comes to looking at really creating success with a new product. And this speaks to that issue about, is the solution one that's really valuable, and is it something that people will actually begin to use? And this is just in my mind, an important piece of information for everyone to keep in mind as they're moving. Let's see here.
Can you describe it a little bit for everybody?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we have to read.
So as it turns out, the U.S. Census Bureau surveyed over 500,000 businesses in the United States. Wow. 583,000 businesses, and they said, okay, to figure out, are you using new technologies and advanced technologies?
Mm-hmm.
And it's great information to see, how far along some of the advanced technologies are that we see and talk about almost every day. So they did this survey with a lot of companies, and then published this report just a couple months ago, which was July 2020, and
Mm-hmm.
the results are unbelievable. And they're asking about things like touch screens, machine learning, voice recognition, machine vision,
Mm-hmm.
robotics, natural language, augmented reality, and look at the rates of adoption.
Mm-hmm.
They are really, really low.
Mm-hmm.
I
Because
mean,
those are the innovators and early adopters,
it,
or
yes, but the thing that you might want to take from this, it
mm-hmm.
is many of the technologies that we talk about and the solutions we talk about are not even close to being adopted by the mainstream of the market.
Mm-hmm.
These adoption rates are, at what, maybe 5% if they're lucky, um, and that's not even uh, halfway through early adopters. However, if you think about where it is you go and you interact with the business community, and maybe you read TechCrunch, maybe you go to Indie Hackers, maybe you spend time on LinkedIn or Twitter. All of the discussions there are about essentially a tiny piece of the market.
Mm-hmm.
What this means in a lot of ways is the majority, and I mean vast majority, we're talking 80% of businesses or more, really 90% or more, are still using pen and paper, or maybe a personal computer. They're not implementing things at the way that you think that they are being implemented, and that's because all of the articles, all of the journalists and people writing articles, and the analysts, people who are doing industry analysis, that they look at these companies that are adopting, and then they go out and they talk about it as if it's everywhere, and it's not everywhere. It's in fact, it's almost nowhere. So I I think that there's just an enormous amount of room to create a solution that addresses a much bigger market, and it's not necessarily the latest and greatest technology. It might actually be a technology that now no one's talking about it as much. But I just I don't want people to get the impression, because the 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 information they receive, unfortunately, is skewed. It's skewed toward early adopters. Hey, everybody is going to artificial intelligence. Hey, there are new products for the financial community, and it uses machine learning to do these things,
Mm-hmm.
and such benefits are huge. These things, even though that statement might be true, it's implemented by a very small group of companies, very small, because this solution is so far away from being ready
Mm-hmm.
for the mainstream to adopt.
Mm-hmm.
And
So, yeah,
yeah,
sorry, Warren.
yeah,
I was thinking, to link this interesting information with our question, which is Um, when we talk about doing a or building a solution that is a game changer,
Yep.
so you're you're pointing to that the argument that to be a game changer, you don't have to be in this hype of technologies.
Cool. Right.
You don't need that, right? So you can be a game changer with
Correct.
something that is not that latest technology. Is
Yep.
it right? Are you talking
I,
about that?
that is that is correct. And th- this is and tell me if you can see this wheel, if you can see this
Yes,
diagram.
everybody
Okay.
is can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So in my mind, um, it's not the core product, and that's the thing so many people focus on is the core technology, the core product, and it becomes this what the word I think about is it becomes glamorized and hyped and that's the word you use that I really like. And there's that thing called the Gartner hype cycle,
Yeah.
and um, and the focus is
I love
there.
it.
Yeah, the
Fall to the
focus is
solution.
it, it's not it's not what the majority of the market wants to buy. If you want to change the game, you do it by adding things around the core product, and and the things that you add are the things that they lower risk for the buyer, so that more and more and more people want to buy it. But it shows in three chunks. It shows you understand their business or their situation. The category membership, it shows that you're part of the ecosystem, that you really know all of the people who supply something to the end user, and you're you're right there. You're an insider. You're an industry
Yeah.
insider, and then you've put things into place that I call long-term protection. If you want to create something that is that just takes off like Salesforce, just absolutely is an amazing company. It's because of the way you build these things around the core
Mhm.
product that makes the difference. And I, I don't want to spend too much time on something if this is off topic, but I just think it's it, we need to be careful when we say I want to create a game changer, and it's based on the hype rather
Mhm.
than based on the reality of what people really buy.
Mhm.
And this is
Mhm.
what people buy, and this is why so many products struggle. Is you look at the colored areas of this wheel, you need all of those areas colored. The
Mhm.
more of those areas that are colored, the lower you're perceived as being risky. And it's just so many products are introduced, and 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 I've said this, of course, that an innovator, an early adopter, doesn't need a fully filled out product. They're
Mhm.
more interested in the core.
In the core.
But if you want to make your audience size 20 times bigger, 20 times bigger audience, then you start filling out each of these little
Mhm.
segments. And so many products go to market, and they have hardly any colored sections at all.
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
it's it, it's just barely beyond the core product. It's not enough.
Mhm.
And this is the concept that I think needs to be your driving force in developing a game changing offering. Is how do you lower the risk through adding all of these things onto a core technology, and
Mhm.
and we this whole long-term protection layer. We live in such uncertainty anymore with a pandemic and climate change. You've got to have elements of security. I don't know of any
Mhm.
industry that hasn't been hacked yet.
Mhm.
Every industry has been hacked at this point. Um, we've got climate change problems. We've got community and social issues, and you can fundamentally address that
Mhm.
as a piece of your product. So
Mhm.
I probably went way off the tracks answering your question.
Let's say a little bit, yes.
uh,
No worries. Let's
yeah,
let's let's recap some key takeaways for this topic, and let's go straight to the fourth and last topic. So some key takeaways about solution is clearly a game changer. First, um, we have to be sure that our solution is different from what existing in the market. So compared with the competition, we haven't talked about that, but it's very important that you go outside and you do your table to compare the attributes and how the competition is serving the jobs to be done that you've been researching before in the problem solution fit, in the research of the problem. So you gotta know how the competition is solving those jobs to be done for your target audience, and how you can fill the holes in the market where your competition is not solving some of those problems for your
yeah,
target audience. So that's the key to build something different, right?
yeah,
And then to be a game changer, here is where your key takeaways come, Warren.
yeah,
It's first for your early adopters. They are more interested in your core, in how are you solving those jobs to be done, let's say, at the very beginning.
yeah,
But a game changer for us is a startup. A solution is a product that can go to the mainstream and can, let's say, conquer the full segment and the
yeah,
full market. And for that to happen, we have to lower the risk perception, and we
yeah,
have to build another services around the core services, like, for example, support service or training services, or depending on what's your industry and what are their needs, you
yeah.
gotta lower the risks. So
Right.
that's the second takeaway.
And keep in mind that the two audiences you mentioned, one on one hand is like innovators and early adopters. That's around 15% of the market. You think about it, um, they can teach you a lot of good things. You can learn magnificent things about how to improve your product, how to sell it, who to partner with. A lot of things can be learned, but that's a tiny piece.
Yeah.
15%. Think of that. 85% of the market is
Mhm.
waiting for something that's much more complete, has all of those added on services, attributes, certifications, and standards, and is much lower risk. I, if I step back, I look at high tech. So many people are focused on innovators and early adopters and that first step, and it's almost like they don't want to take the time to enter the mainstream. It's
Yeah.
it it's so many more
I would
things
say,
to
yeah,
think
it's
about. It's
for
hard.
us, yeah, for us it's kind of more cool staying with the innovators because we talk the same language and we are innovators ourselves. So it's kind of we get
Yeah,
excited to talk with them.
yeah,
But yeah, I can see this because it happened to me too, and it's it's kind of when you are talking with them and you get excited, but you don't realize that you are always talking about the core product with them. They just want to have a a product that it's putting them ahead of the competition, and it's so
yeah,
you are all the time developing things and thinking on a product roadmap that it's just focused on the early adopters, right, and the innovators. And that's talking just about products. So innovators and early adopters are, I would say, about a product. But
Yes.
then if you want to go to the mainstream, you want to conquer the market, you need to build a company
Yeah.
with support layers, with a team of support for the customers, with a brand, providing trust to your customers, with all the marketing and sales machinery, with with a bunch of different things that lower the risk perception. And that's not anymore the talks that you have with the early adopters, right?
Right. Yep.
You want to transition from building a product to building a company with the
Yep.
full layers of support for your
Yep.
mainstream, right?
Yes. And for a technology oriented innovator, a founder or something, this is all boring, right?
It's very boring.
It's like, oh, you mean we have to hire someone to manage our documentation? Oh,
Yeah. But here is, so it's a, I can see it completely aligned because it's about to develop yourself as an entrepreneur and transition to a leader and a manager that is able to build a full company.
yeah,
So yeah, hell, look at this new product. This is so your motivation is because this is fun, right? So
yeah,
your motivation is you're building something because it's solving a problem, it's fun, it's high tech, it's the last, and you start talking with the customers and you get excited. Oh, this is so cool, and that's so your motivations are related with the tech, with how cool it is, in solving a problem, all of that, and you are kind of problem solver. Tech people, blah blah
yeah,
blah. But then, if you're gonna go a step forward, you're gonna build something bigger. If you wanna build a game changer, you have to become a leader, and
yeah,
you have to be able to build a full company. And your position starts changing from a product perspective and tech perspective to a leader and managerial perspective. So it's kind of you have to transition your professional career and the way you behave, right,
right.
Loren?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people just do not like that transition. And you, you know um, the mainstream user is going to have in their mind a value proposition that's very different than yours or your early customers, early adopters, right? The when you first start out and you're talking to innovators and early adopters, and it's so much of it is concept driven. Oh, look at all the wonderful things that might happen,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
look at how this could be used in here and here and in all of these ways and make a big difference. Then you go into the mainstream and they're focused. Oh, we only care about this one little problem in this one industry. Oh, and by the way, we have to buy it from somebody we know.
By the way,
you know, and
that
you,
never happens.
right, and right,
100%.
and it's just it is such a transition, and a lot of people don't want to try to make that transition, and even if they try to make it, they don't have fun. So um, there are people who are born to serve the mainstream market. You just need to find those people to bring in to your team
Yeah,
when it's time.
yeah. And here is where another kind of uh, tough times for the startups arrive,
Yeah.
which is okay, we're getting money from venture capitalists, business angels to go to the mainstream, but we have to change the CEO because
Yes.
at the very beginning, the CEO, which by the way, probably is the founder and the one with more shares,
Yeah.
he's very product oriented, an innovator, and early adopter oriented. But to take this to the mainstream, we
Yeah.
need another kind of CEO, which is more leader, building all the layers of the company to reduce the risk perception for all
Yeah.
the mainstream market,
Man.
let's say. So we
Right.
got to change the CEO, and now what? Right?
Yes.
Tough times.
It,
But
it,
it
it
should
is.
happen to conquer the mainstream.
Yeah. Absolutely. And and the people who are around them, sometimes if they're co-founders, a lot of the co-founders are very technology oriented and very early market oriented, and they're not going to be successful, unfortunately, in
Yeah,
the mainstream. So it's a big problem, a huge transition.
it is.
Yeah,
Different kinds of CEOs for different stages of the company. That's something that we know happens, and there are lots of research published, and that's something that companies need, and that's the reason because there are different kind of CEOs with different kind of leadership styles
yeah.
because we need them all.
Well, and think about the failure rate in high tech is very high, and that this is a key reason is the transition is never made, and it and that's unfortunate because some of the products are successful in the early market, but they cannot transition to the mainstream, and they end up completely failing, and it's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Uh, I,
So yeah, let's leave it for another conversation because I think we can talk a lot about different leadership styles fitting with the product adoption curve. I think that's something that it's very
yeah,
interesting topic.
yeah,
But we're out of time.
yeah.
Do you have 15 minutes more, Warren? And we talk about the last subtopic.
Okay,
Do
yeah,
you have time?
yes.
Okay, because the last one, and by the way, is the one that probably is the one that I more like to research about and to think about, which is does your startup or your product has any barriers to entry? Are the barriers to entry clearly defined? Do you have any IP? Are you creating modes?
Right.
So how are you different, right? Why is this a key success factor and how we can discuss about the kind of moats, sorry, that we can create and the kind of barriers to entry that we can
Yeah,
create around our startup.
yeah. Um, yes. So there are a couple of different pieces to this. Number one, and again, this refers to the mainstream. Mainstream buyers love to buy from from a market leader, from someone who is ahead of all the other suppliers.
Hmm.
And now, and they'd love to have that choice. So if if you essentially have a competitive position and it's based on unique patents, intellectual property, or a unique way of delivering the like what was it? And I think Amazon is going to start delivering with drones. So
Hmm.
so if you have a unique channel of distribution, you've got unique intellectual property, then you can essentially be much more appealing to the mainstream buyer because they're looking around and they're saying, who is on top of all the vendors who might sell something to us to address our problem? Who's the leader?
Hmm.
And so it's not just the fact that you might have better technology, that you might have better intellectual property. What that also does is gives you something that is a perception of leadership. You see, with so many technologies, someone is going to probably figure out how to, duplicate or come up with an equivalent technology to match yours, because technology development is so rapid. There are so many things that can be developed quickly that even if you have some type of technology lead, you're probably not going to be able to maintain that technology lead for a long time.
Hmm. That
Someone
was
will.
the argument of Elon Musk to publish the Tesla intellectual property, the Tesla's IPs for the batteries.
Yeah, yeah,
So he sacrificed a competitive advantage based on IP
yeah,
to build another competitive advantage, in this case, a moat based on the brand.
right.
Brand is
Which
more long term.
it is. It's much more sustainable and much more powerful is what they call a perception. So you have a perception of being that market leader, uh, then it's extremely powerful and longer lasting than the actual technology itself.
Mhm. That
Uh,
was the argument of Elon Musk, and it's very
yeah,
interesting to me.
yeah,
I never thought about that until, I started reading a bunch of articles and thinking about that, and it was, oh yeah, I think that's smart movement. I mean, at the very beginning, you think, hey, what is this guy doing? The IP is your competitive advantage, but no, so you're sacrificing the IP to build a more lasting competitive advantage because at the end, so here is the thing: the IP is stronger in the short term because it's protected, right? But
it,
once it's finished, then you have nothing. So the movement of Elon Musk was, hey, I'm sacrificing the short term to create a more long term and not stronger in the short term because the brand is not a stronger competitive advantage than the IP in the short term,
yeah,
but in the long term, the brand is going to be a
right.
more sustainable mode
Yes,
for sure because we are going to be the market leaders with this movement.
yeah. Um, and you know, so uh, it's also a strong indicator. Again, this is perception based that you're truly focused on somebody's market segment, and that's what mainstream buyers want. That's what the most buyers want is
Mhm.
someone who's who's not just going to come in and sell some product and then disappear. It it actually shows a long term commitment
Mhm.
to a market space. That's you know that's a perception in the mind of the buyer and the end user that here is somebody who's going to stick around with us and keep solving our problem for a long time, right? That's what they want is someone who's not going to go away. The concept of a technology orphan is the most frightening. It's the thing that scares the most buyers away is I don't know this company. They don't have a track record in my space. They're going to sell me something and then disappear, and then I'm going to need to fix it, and I won't have anybody to help me when I need help. And these are these are perception oriented things that have a lot of power if you do it correctly.
Yeah, this is reminding me, this conversation is reminding me, um, because, I'm this kind of early adopter, of course. I mean, uh, and I would say 3 years ago, I bought a drone
Uh-huh.
because I used to be a runner. Now, I don't run that much, I do CrossFit, but I used to go to the mountain to run
Yeah.
crazy, long runs. And I wanted a camera to record myself going downhill running.
Yep.
And I bought a camera and quick starter. It was a drone that
Yep.
was able to follow you.
Yep.
Artificial intelligence was still not there. So
Yep.
you had a beacon that you
Right.
put in your pocket, and then the
Yeah.
drone was following you.
Yeah.
And that was $1,000,
Yeah.
and they were promising to have it delivered. I bought it on June, and they were promising to have it delivered by January next year. So kind of
Yeah.
7 months.
Yeah.
And I didn't all in because I am an innovator, right? I
Yeah.
said, hey, I trust these guys, but the mainstream, there is no way is going to do that.
No. No way.
You know what happened with these guys? There was no delivery, never.
Yeah. So
So they went out of money before the product was
was
done.
finished. Yep.
But I mean, I have to say that they returned my money, and everybody, they were very happy because, hey, I mean, these guys were in a struggle, and they returned all the quick starters, the money, and I mean that's tough, and for an entrepreneur is very tough to face that, but they did it, so it's that. talks really good for them,
Yeah.
as humans, right? But it happened. There's no
Yeah.
way the mainstream is going to buy that, right?
No way. No, no, yeah, no chance. Because I don't know who the company was. You know,
Forgot the name.
DJI is the I think the market leader in drones right now. But even still, it's it's still kind of a new industry. And remember, a drone is a horizontal kind of generic tool. Until it's made for a specific industry to solve a specific problem, then it's not got the attributes that the mainstream wants, right? And of course, nobody wants a drone that doesn't fly anymore and
Yeah,
cannot be fixed.
yeah. So let's take the last 4 minutes to talk again about the topic that
Yeah.
when we start talking and then we go off topic because we're passionate about all of this.
Yes.
So the last subtopic was that the startups should have some kind of IP or other barriers to entry, define it, or they are building barriers to entry. That's key for the success of the startup in the long term.
Right.
Um, I have here a list of different examples
Okay.
on competitive advantage that a startup can create. If you don't mind, I can go through the examples and then we can discuss about it. So one
Sure.
would be IP, create something with intellectual property. Second would be creating network effects like
Yeah.
Uber.
Yeah.
Another one would be the intangible assets, this case of Tesla, from
Yeah.
IP, competitive advantage, to brand, which is an intangible asset.
Yeah.
Another one would be to have high switching costs. For example, social networks. I have all my followers on Twitter, and then what I wanna in the world to change to Facebook. I don't know anybody in Facebook. I don't have followers. That's a high switching cost, right?
Right.
Then low cost production, and then efficient scale. Having a business model that is very efficient to scale.
Yeah.
Is there something that you want to specifically talk or you want to add on top of these kind of competitive advantages and modes that we can create?
Well, the only thing that I would say from that list is, some of those are economic advantages, some of them are technical advantages, but the ones that last the longest are the ones based on perception,
Intangible.
intangible attributes. There was um, a fascinating. It was when digital cameras were, kind of a new thing. Um, there were all these new digital cameras on the market, and they were all from pretty well known suppliers. But Sony, decided, we want to make people feel like they're not losing technology they've already adopted.
Mhm.
So when they first had their I forget the name of the product, their digital camera product, it actually took an old style floppy disk,
Mhm.
right? And you inserted the old style floppy disk, and the camera itself, it was lower resolution. It didn't it was heavy. It was heavier. It wasn't nearly as advanced as the other ones, like Casio and other companies had these, much higher storage capacity, much higher resolution. But Sony said, no, we're going to sacrifice these new features, and we're going to stay with things that people already know and they're comfortable with using, and bang, they get 40% of the market right away. And it's because of maintaining that perception that we are going to protect your position as
Mhm.
an electronics user. We're not going to give you the newest most high-tech solution, and everybody else was doing that. And Sony went completely opposite way and became, the market leader in that space
Yeah,
because
because
of their perception of.
probably the other ones were selling just to the innovators and early adopters. They were
And
not going to the mainstream because
they were not
you're
going to the.
focused on the
Right,
product. You're focusing on more
right,
innovation, more innovation, more innovation. But
right.
Sony was focusing on the mainstream,
Correct.
right?
And yes, and
Okay.
let's don't disrupt what people already use. Let's keep that in place, and 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 it's interesting. The mainstream, strangely enough, doesn't necessarily want the latest and greatest.
Hmm.
That's a source of risk. So yeah, you can use all types of different ways, but perception is going to be the biggest competitive advantage. Absolutely, the biggest competitive advantage is your perception that you're doing things for a targeted audience, and that you are a leader supplying them with things that they don't have to disrupt their lives to adopt. Uh,
And
that's
this
that's
is
a big
linked.
deal.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, Warren. Because I was thinking this is linked to our third. We've been discussing today in the last topic about a game changer. This is linked with a game changer. You don't need to have the latest of the latest technology to be a game changer.
No, not at
It's
all.
perfectly linked, right?
Right,
It
right,
fits perfectly
right,
with
right.
that
You,
argument.
you think about that Sony example. That was a new thing, digital photography. It was replacing all of the
Mhm.
old use of film and prints. So it's a new concept, but it holds on to something that is old and is understood and is widely adopted, and it doesn't come in and destroy your life and say now you've got to throw out everything. It lets you keep lets you keep things that you're familiar with, you've always used, and that's just a
Yeah.
huge attraction of.
However, what's interesting, and here comes to my mind another thing that I would love to discuss with you is be careful because you're creating a category, right? In the mainstream. So you already have category product fit, and then somebody can take the second mover advantage. In
Yeah,
this case, Apple,
yeah,
that completely destroyed Sony market
yeah,
share of the cameras because they
yeah,
created this thing, right? The
yeah,
smartphone with the iPhone.
yeah,
And for the mainstream in the cameras, it was okay, I can do the same now with my digital camera, but on top of that, I have access to the internet, and then I can call, and then I can have SMS, and I can have software. So Sony was completely out of the market.
yeah,
It was boom.
yeah. So yeah, so that's really taking. If you think about it, phones existed, cell phones were by themselves existed. Music players, they were called the Discman or the Walkman, that existed. Uh, the the digital cameras that existed. Everybody everyone was familiar with all of these technologies.
There were category market fit, right?
It's just Apple took 5 products and went, now that's one.
That's gonna work, right?
Well, it's not a big disruption because, um, okay, I've already used a digital camera. Now there's one in this phone. Okay, I've already used a music player. Now there's one in this phone. Okay, I've already used a cell phone. Now there's one in this and the iPhone is just providing a consolidation of things people are already familiar with,
Mhm.
right? This is
So the
not.
iPhone was born to go directly to the mainstream.
Absolutely. It was a refinement of portable digital devices.
Mhm.
It was not a disruptive innovation, which means there aren't. And this I need to write this article. There's no such thing as an early adopter of iPhones.
There is no what? Sorry.
There's no such thing as an early adopter of iPhones, right? It really was from
Yeah,
the very first day
to the mainstream.
designed for the mainstream.
Yeah. I mean, probably there were some early adopter. So I'm remembering the very first day I saw an iPhone. I was in Spain because I'm from Spain. Um, I was studying in the university, and here comes the typical friend that everybody has in Spain that was on vacation on United States, and he buys the latest technologies that are just available, or let's say first available here in the United States market.
Yeah,
And then so he bought the iPhone, and
yeah,
he brought the iPhone to class, and we
yeah.
were all, oh wow. So for me, that was so he's the early adopter because he went to United States, he bought the iPhone, he spent a lot of money
Yeah,
for which is kind of difficult for an economy like in those times 15 years ago. There were not that much people coming to the States from Spain and then being
yeah,
able to buy an iPhone, right?
yeah,
So in my mind, there is this kind of early adopter, but I completely agree and with the vision that iPhone was born from the very beginning to go to the mainstream with all
correct.
this category market fit already done. So
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And they did a little bit of maybe early market strategy in terms of the iPod, which was for music, and so they were already taking digital portable digital electronics and refining it. It's just the iPhone was the biggest refinement of all
mhm,
because it literally combined 5 devices.
mhm.
I used to have a picture of a guy that wearing a belt with 5 different things on it. You know, his he had a Palm Pilot, right, for his contacts, and he had a digital camera and a phone
Everything.
and
All in
everything
one.
all on one belt. And you look back and you go, um, the iPhone is why didn't everybody just automatically think of that? Taking
Yeah,
5 things that people use routinely and just creating one unit that does the
that
all
was
5.
brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah, but also very obvious, very
yeah,
obvious. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, so to finish, so we can say that going back to our question, which is we need an IP or other barriers to entry or modes to have a long-term success with our startup, or
yeah,
these IPs or barriers to entry are at least are clearly defined in our strategy. So,
right.
for example, in the Apple's example, we can talk about they have the intangible assets with the brand. I mean,
Yep,
it's number one, probably
yep,
Coca-Cola, right?
yep,
Brand in the world. We're talking about high switching costs. This
yep,
was introduced kind of 15 years ago when they started to have an ecosystem of different devices and
yep,
software. That's high switching costs, right? Because you don't want to switch to Android suddenly. What's happening with all your gadgets in your home with your iPhone? You have to change all the ecosystem, which is a lot of money too, and
yep.
change management.
Yes,
You have to change from okay, I know how to use the Apple to change or to start using the Android or to start using the Amazon gadgets. So
yeah,
high switching costs, and then the IPs. They have the IPs too, so they
right.
have a lot of let's say barriers to entry, right, for
Yes,
competitors. That's what we want to build for our startups.
correct. And you think about the iTunes, ecosystem, and uh,
Network effects.
and
Okay, yeah.
correct, and you know um, the whole economic arrangement with artists to put their music onto iTunes along with independents, and that's the delivery vehicle that keeps people locked into the iPhone.
Mhm. Yeah.
and Apple in general, actually.
Yeah. They have every kind of
Oh, but
modes and barriers to entry.
yeah, competitive, yeah, barriers, absolutely.
Competitive.
Yeah.
So thanks, Warren, for your time today. Um, in 2 weeks, we'll have another session, the second one talking about key success factors for a
Okay.
startup.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about market, right? Is the
Yep.
second one.
Yep. We
We're
are.
gonna discuss about that.
Yeah.
And then we can talk in another one about product adoption. We'll develop a calendar and share the calendar with all our
Okay.
audience. Is there
So,
something you wanna add?
nope. Sounds like fun, actually.
It's super fun. I mean, I'm learning it so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Warren, for your time, and let's talk later.
All right, Jose.
Talk soon.
It's fun to talk with you as always.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Take care. You too.
Bye.